I think I finally figured out Gregory's entire timeline in Five Nights at Freddy's. What he's doing now, what he was doing before Security Breach, and even what he was doing before that. How he got involved in this in the first place. I think I even know why we see those red bars when Vanny gets too close. So Slices, put on your aprons and let's bake ourselves a theory. Back when Security Breach first came out, a lot of us were confused as to this new character. For a while, it was tradition in Five Nights at Freddy's to not know much about our player character, but by the time of Sister Location, we generally had the idea that we were playing as Michael Afton. Of course, that ended after FNAF 6, but then in Help Wanted, while we didn't know the name of our character, we knew that we were a game tester, we knew that we were probably getting our mind taken over by Glitchtrap, then along came Security Breach, where immediately we do get the name Gregory, but he's acting strange. He's not just some kid, there's something up with him. He hesitates when he's telling us his name. He seems to know more than he's letting on about the Pizzaplex and Vanessa. And for some incredibly strange reason, even though Glamrock Freddy crashed on stage and was brought back to his dressing room until rebooting, somehow Gregory was already inside him. And then, even though we were just inside him, when he's told to get back inside of Freddy, he's hesitant and worried about his safety, which is weird for someone who literally was just doing that 30 seconds ago. Even by the end of the game, somehow Gregory miraculously knows that there's children going missing, even though we haven't been told that until after one of the endings. So he knows something we don't. Unfortunately, that's all we had to work with. Some people chalk this up to poor writing when originally playing the game, but with the information we have now, instead, I think this was just setting up a specific mystery on purpose. So what information can key us into what's actually going on here? Well, the first piece of the puzzle is the Tales from the Pizzaplex story, GGY. I always get questions about why I brush Mark's fur the opposite direction. He's got a really thick coat and he sheds a lot, but it doesn't get off him. So what the strategy, I know you care about this. The strategy is you fluff the back end to loosen and then you go back over with that brush, and that's to get that really deep coat that just does not leave when he sheds it. At least that's the way he likes it. Longtime fans of the franchise are not surprised about what I'm about to go into, but a short story came out a year and a half ago about a kid whose school project was to investigate a real-life mystery, and him and his two friends made up nicknames for their journalist group. One of his friends is not important, and I don't even remember his name. The other friend went by Rab, for Dr. Rabbit. Our main character picks the fact that at the Mega Pizzaplex, for some reason, all of the arcade games have GGY as their top high score, and those high scores are impossibly high. So he's trying to figure out who this mystery GGY person is. As our main character investigates, he finds that the initials GGY are linked to a modified keycard that's been being used to access the Pizzaplex after hours. Not only that, but the guidance counselors at his school have been going missing. Lo and behold, GGY took those guidance counselors to the Pizzaplex after hours right before they went missing. He noticed as he was investigating that anytime he started looking too closely, Glamrock Freddy would be staring daggers at him, looming over him almost in a threatening way. Not almost, it definitely looked like he was going to kill him. He also learned from a teenager who frequents the Pizzaplex that somebody had modified the programming of the Glamrock animatronics, specifically in Golden Freddy, where the coding had been changed and G's and Y's were sprinkled throughout almost like a signature. By the end of our story, the main character has given up. As his school project failed, he wasn't able to figure out what the mystery was, and his friend Dr. Rabbit changed the entire story to be about some wizard. But in a promise to cheer him up, Dr. Rabbit, or as we then learn, his real name, Greg, offers to bring the main character to the Pizzaplex to meet his friends, and they'll put a smile on his face. Immediately, you can see some connections here. Like, a kid named Greg is making guidance counselors go missing, getting high scores that we can see in Security Breach, and goes by the nickname Dr. Rabbit. And in that wizard story that he made in the book, he calls himself the wizard's favorite apprentice. This story is about Gregory. And when this book first came out, a lot of fans took it as an explanation as to what Gregory was doing before Security Breach, aka he was another Vanny, a human whose mind was taken over by Glitchtrap to work as his servant. I made a video on this myself when the book came out, and frankly, I really believe this theory. It's super solid. Like, sure, this is just a Tales from the Pizzaplex story, and it is arguable how true those are to the games, but consider the fact that in the therapy logs that you can collect in-game, there's the unnamed Patient 42, and in those logs, we constantly hear about therapists going missing. This is as close to one-to-one as we get in these stories. But as good of an explanation as this is, and as strong as I personally believe in it, it doesn't explain to us a few key things. We still really don't know why, if he was working for Glitchtrap, why he suddenly isn't by the beginning of Security Breach, why he weirdly hesitates to say what his name is at the beginning of the game, and how he became a servant to Glitchtrap in the first place. Help Wanted as a game was nearly solely dedicated to showing us how Vanny was created. Vanessa's mind slowly being corrupted until Glitchtrap was able to replicate within her mind. I've got water here, at least with the river, but I'm just so hungry. Oh. A sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by HelloFresh. I don't think I need to introduce you to HelloFresh. I'm sure you've already heard of them. They are one of the best subscription services out there that deliver you a box with recipes and fresh ingredients so you can make your own meals every week. And you can mix and match lifestyle options to suit your needs with categories like fit and wholesome, family friendly, quick and easy, vegetarian, and more. You can even customize your delivery date or skip a week if you know you're not going to be able to cook. One of the best parts about it for me are the recipe cards that come with the box. They're huge, they're perfect for the counter, and we even keep a whole binder of them at the house just to have on hand. Each box includes pre-portioned ingredients, so you're only paying for what you need and not wasting any food. And I didn't even tell you the best part yet. They're giving all subscribers free breakfast for life. That means you'll enjoy a totally free breakfast item with every HelloFresh delivery. Click the link in the description or use my code to get 10 free meals plus free breakfast for life. One breakfast item per box while subscription is active if you're in the US. Outside the US, the local discount will apply. Honestly, I cannot recommend them enough. And every purchase made with this link directly supports me and my channel, so thank you in advance. And once again, thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. All right, food is settled. Now we just gotta figure out where this river leads. And I'll just touch on this now because I don't really go into it in this theory. This theory does necessitate the idea that Vanny and Dr. Rabbit in this sense are iterations of Glitchtrap. Glitchtrap being a manifestation of the Mimic 1 program, a program that's able to replicate whatever it sees that's been trained on the history of fazbear. So it's trying to recreate William Afton in a way. But this program is something that replicates, and I believe that Vanny is a replication of Glitchtrap. Essentially, Glitchtrap, once taking over Vanessa's mind, was able to replicate that program in her mind. So Vanny is Glitchtrap. Vanny is an iteration of Glitchtrap. Much the same way, Gregory, or when he was evil working for Glitchtrap, Dr. Rabbit, is an iteration of Glitchtrap. Just wanted to touch on that, because it might get confusing if you're not on that page for the rest of this theory. But Gregory seems to have gone under the same experience that Vanessa does, but it happens completely off camera. We don't even see what he does while he is a servant, or don't we? And that's where we get the second piece of this puzzle, the story VIP. VIP was the shorter teaser interactive novel, volume 0 of the series, that we got during the FNAF anniversary week. It's a great read and I highly recommend it. Like I said, it's a free ebook, but it follows the Pizzaplex sometime before Security Breach and moderately after Tales from the Pizzaplex. It almost serves as a gap between those two eras. The story in it is very interesting and has merit for its own theories, but we're not really here to talk about the plot of VIP. We're here to talk about one specific thing, the MOE, or the Max Occupancy Experience. Essentially, in the story there exists this open to the public virtual headset, the purpose of which is, since the Pizzaplex is constantly under construction and very busy, in case there's ever a day where there's not enough rides to go around and there's too many patrons, you can put on this virtual headset, which lets you explore a digital version of the Pizzaplex where there's no lines and you can go on updated games, and it even multiplies your score in every game by 10. In fact, to beat that book and get the best ending, you have to make your way to the MOE twice, where you put it on 2 times and your score is then multiplied by 100 each time. This is a really interesting concept, but the main function of the MOE should sound familiar. Something you can wear on your head that makes you see a digital version of the Pizzaplex. That's just the Vanny mask. This technology has been seen in-game in Ruin and Help Wanted 2, but we know from the games, especially Ruin, that the Vanny mask doesn't just let you access the digital Pizzaplex. The one we see in these games, if you wear it long enough, seems to be able to take over your mind. At least that's what I think we're seeing in the Brazil ending of Ruin, where Cassie, after wearing the mask for long enough, has her mind fully taken over by Glitchtrap, and instead of seeing where she is, she's instead given the vision of a happy ending, while who knows what's happening in the real world. Alright, so we have a likely backstory for Gregory, and we have the connection of the Vanny mask and the MOE. Putting all of these ingredients together, we're starting to form a picture, and I'm sure some of you are already coming to conclusions. So let's mix them together, throw it in the oven, and see what kind of theory rises. With all the evidence in mind, I present to you, in my belief, the full timeline of Gregory from Security Breach. Gregory was a kid obsessed with the Mega Fazbear Pizzaplex and all of its arcade glory. There was the West Arcade, the East Arcade, the daycare arcades, and arcade machines littered throughout the Pizzaplex, and Gregory would frequent them all. He was quite good at these games, getting high scores on most of them. But then one day, he's approached by a strange rabbit character, one he's never seen before, one that's not an animatronic, but someone wearing a felt suit. She approaches him and says that she noticed how good he is at these arcade games, but she has something that can make him even better. He can even have it for free, because after seeing how good he is at these games, in her words,
Gregory, I think you deserve a reward.
And she hands him this strange rabbit mask with technology on the back of it. He puts it on and realizes that when he plays the arcade machines while wearing it, his scores are much higher than before, as if the mask itself is multiplying what he typically got. Some of the games are even different than before now, offering brand new experiences. He plays them more and more, getting high scores on all of these machines, until eventually, while playing Balloon World, he notices a strange glitch in the machine. Curious what would happen, he drives Balloon Boy into it, and suddenly it forms a trail leading to somewhere. Following it as far as he can, eventually he sees the phrase "good night," and just like that, Gregory goes to sleep, and a new persona takes place in his mind. Just like when Glitchtrap replicated itself inside of Vanessa's brain, creating the Vanny persona, Glitchtrap has once again replicated himself, but this time inside of Gregory's brain, forming Dr. Rabbit, a boy who's a tech whiz, able to reprogram machinery, one that thinks he's Glitchtrap's favorite. But why was he made? Well, Vanny had her hands full. First of all, Vanessa still had some control over her mind and body, taking up some of Vanny's time. But Vanny also had to do the experiments Glitchtrap commanded of her. She was busy taking the remnant from the Pizzaplex and trying to make some sort of suitable host for Glitchtrap in the physical world. But more and more, people were noticing what's going on, whether it be employees looking too closely, guests noticing strange behavior of the animatronics. She needed someone to protect themselves and the experiment while she continued to work, and that's what Dr. Rabbit was for. First, he went to Glamrock Freddy and modified his programming, making sure he'd protect this new host above all else. That way, Dr. Rabbit could move about the Pizzaplex freely and do what he had to do, knowing that Freddy would protect him. He then began to encrypt the digital personas themselves within arcade machines, making sure that you couldn't remove Dr. Rabbit or Vanny from their hosts unless you found these modified arcade machines and beat them. He made sure to have the animatronics hide them where no one would find them, putting Princess Quest 3 in Vanny's hideout and the modified Balloon World in his own hideout. When he was working on this arcade manipulation, he spent his time hidden in the loft above the daycare, but once that was finished, he moved his hideaway and Balloon World to the FNAF 6 pizzeria, right up close and personal with the Glitchtrap experiments. But what was this next part of the plan? Well, he needed to hide and protect these experiments themselves, and luckily, there was an old piece of machinery that was ready to be changed and modified. The MXE system that's been buried down here with the Mimic. He modified its programming to protect and conceal the Mimic, and all of the experimentation going on down here. And of course, because he's Dr. Rabbit, these encryption nodes were rabbits. The entity he programmed to safeguard them was a rabbit, and he made sure that if anyone was caught trying to hack into it, this entity would find them and report them to every nearby animatronic, so someone could escort them to leave. Everything was going to plan, and Dr. Rabbit returned back to the Pizzaplex to monitor the animatronics and the arcades, keeping a watchful eye on anything that would need to be encrypted. But they weren't expecting someone to have already caught on. While Dr. Rabbit was inactive inside of Glamrock Freddy, Cassie's dad got too close. He'd been paying attention to the weirdness of the Pizzaplex and keeping it mostly to himself, not even telling his own daughter what was really going on, but trying to figure it out. In investigating all of this weirdness, he wound up at the FNAF 6 pizzeria, and when he was down there, he found the Balloon World arcade machine. He'd known there'd been strange reports of the other arcade machines, and seeing one this far away from the Pizzaplex, he figured it worthwhile to look into it and try to beat it. But once he did, the dominoes began to fall. Suddenly, the Dr. Rabbit persona was shunted out of Gregory's mind, Gregory waking up inside of a dark enclosed space he couldn't see or hear in. Once that happened, the Dr. Rabbit persona began to seek out his security nodes to figure out what's going on, and in the meantime, the Vanny persona ordered the animatronics to find Gregory's body and retrieve it. But that's when Glamrock Freddy had an incident. His core programming had been modified to protect Gregory's body, and he suddenly got a new command to capture and retain it. these two programs necessarily conflict, and in that moment his OS overloads and crashes. Glamrock Freddy goes to a hard reboot, a safe mode reboot that wipes any modifications or viruses from his programming, and he reboots as just Glamrock Freddy. Inside him, Gregory is waking up too, slowly remembering who he is, what he's done, and what's going on. In essence, they both had a hard reset, and after this long slumber, even Gregory has trouble remembering his own name.
I'm Gregory.
It's at this point that Security Breach in essence takes place. In fact, this explanation even goes as far as to explain why our vision gets messed up when Vanny comes too close. If Gregory had been using the Vanny mask, like Cassie, he would have gotten an occipital nerve chip inserted into his mind, something that can mess with his vision as it does Cassie. So even though we're not wearing the mask anymore, Vanny getting close to us is likely able to disrupt that chip. Vanny hoping that the vision disturbances slow us down enough that she can better catch us. But Gregory and Freddy manage to make their way through the Pizzaplex. And we know that Freddy begins remembering what happened as the game goes on, but what we haven't realized is so does Gregory. More and more throughout the game, he remembers and realizes what's going on at the Pizzaplex, and knows that not only does he need to help Vanessa, but he knows how, because he's the one who encrypted Vanny. Beating the arcade games is what he's always been good at, and now he just needs to beat the arcade games that he himself modified. And by the end of the night, Vanny is shunted out of Vanessa's mind as well, and her, Gregory, and the head of Glamrock Freddy leave the Pizzaplex to go and plan their next steps. Meanwhile, Vanny and Dr. Rabbit begin their backup plan, to which Glitchtrap admonishes the both of them.
You will do as I say! You will bring me what I want! And if you fail me, then you will, both of you, burn!
But what is that backup plan? And what do the personas do next? Well, we'll have to save that for next time. I really do hate doing two-parters, but this is a long theory, and even though this video isn't too long yet, there's just so much that I have to explain, and it makes it impossible to keep the pacing and storytelling of a video consistent when I have to explain so much and then go to the timeline. Not to mention, frankly, the first half and second half of this theory are so distinct that it does make sense to split it up into two videos. After all, the next half is almost exclusively about Help Wanted 2. But what do you think of this? Genuinely, I am so confident on this timeline for Gregory. Granted, a lot of this is pure speculation based on what we know is possible, rather than evidence suggesting that things actually happen. But I think this is incredibly likely and built off of what we already know, so I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. In the meantime, if you didn't like this theory and you want to hear me talk about someone else's theory for a change, last week I covered Remnantplex, a theory made by She's Always Nervous, and I also think that one is basically correct. In the meantime, if you want your fan art featured on the channel, make sure to share it with #ToastArt. Huge thank you to the best channel members, the Dough Risers, and until next time, as always, stay toasty, slices.